This is a snail. Small, brown, and unremarkable. That thing that you'd witness in your garden after it had rained and neglect to contemplate. It moves across a leaf in synchrony with snails, deliberately doing the same behavior. But this snail is different. Hidden inside it is a mechanism that controls every movement. It crawls, turns, and pauses exactly as the mechanism commands. The snail has no idea it's being controlled, no awareness, and no ability to resist. Yet from the outside, it looks completely normal. The snail believes it is moving on its own, but the truth is simple. It never had free will. And what if the same thing is true for us? You've probably heard of the parasites that can change an animal. Although the idea may seem like science fiction, mind control is a real phenomenon that occurs in nature. However, Leucochloridium is different. Indirect harm is the most common consequence of parasites on their hosts. These factors could lead to a decrease in speed, alertness, or riskiness. But Leucochloridium goes much further. Rather than simply exerting influence, it operates at the highest level in critical situations. The parasite starts to form within the body of a snail that has been infected. Why? When it's ready to move on, the snail is induced to depart from the protection of shaded areas and relocate to brighter spots, which normal, healthy snails tend to avoid. The parasite infests the snail's eye stalks. The long, slender tentacles grow in size and appear brightly colored, while pulsating at a rapid pace that is similar to the rhythm of worms or caterpillars. It's such a magical trick that birds can't get enough of it. After recognizing an easy meal, the bird jumps down to devour the eye stalks or entire snail. This is how it usually behaves. The parasite is precisely in that state. The parasite's ultimate habitat is birds. A. Leucochloridium completes its life cycle by consuming itself, which is an unsettling aspect that the snail finds difficult to interpret. It is uncertain if its conduct has been modified. Despite being used as bait, the body remains unknown to it. Everything appears to be normal from the snail's perspective. It has become a conduit for something else in reality. Although it may seem unusual, Leucochloridium is not the only parasite that can manipulate the behavior of another organism. Some instances are even more disturbing. Meet Leucochloridium paradoxum, a parasitic flatworm which appears like something from another planet when viewed under a microscope, is characterized by its long, segmented body that spends most of its life inside nettles. The life cycle is absurdly specific. Bird droppings are where the worm originates from. The snail ingests the droppings while searching for nourishment. The eggs are born inside the snail. Worms then move into the eyes and tentacles of the snail, where worms grow, causing them to appear elsewhere. This is the odd case where the worm does not manage to bite the eye stalk. It does not cause tissue destruction or pain. Upon establishment, it grows and contributes to the development of nervous system activity in snails. Normally, snails are sensitive to light. Why is this? They hide in the shade. With the passage of time, they die from direct sunlight, dry their skin, and dehydrate. This instinct is older than the snail's brain, which is to avoid light and stay hidden. Leucochloridium erases that instinct. The harmed snail swims into the sunlight. It reaches its maximum altitude. The eye stalks, which seem like they are about to burst with worms pushing against the skin from inside, pulse in a rhythmic motion that sounds like observing cockatiels. Still, the snail can still think. Maybe. This part has been replaced by the one that decides whether to hide or survive. A bird comes. The snail does not run. The snail sways in place while the bird feasts. The bird's digestive system receives the worm. The worm lives in the bird as its last host. After hatching, the eggs are passed on as droppings. Land in an area where snails can reproduce, and the whole process begins again. The mathematical reasoning suggests that a parasite cannot be capable of doing this. Understanding the nervous system is essential to manipulate an animal. Comprehending the neurons that influence certain reflexes. Knowledge of injecting appropriate chemicals in specific areas to stimulate desired behaviors while avoiding any other actions. The task is similar to having to flip a switch on an electrical panel in the dark. But Leucochloridium does it, consistently and reliably across many different landforms. However, the mechanism is still not fully understood. The production of compounds by the worm is known to researchers. These compounds have been identified to impact the ganglia, which are neural networks that manage movement and process information. While the effect is well defined, how can one organism convince another to ignore its survival instinct while avoiding danger? But that part is still a mystery. Before the parasites swarmed us, the substance that parasitologists hold in their minds is this. The snail is immune to disease, but it doesn't seem to suffer at all. The task is subject to modification. The behavior change is so slick and precise that you could observe an infected snail and an uninfected snail side by side, with the only difference being their destination and behavior. But the parasite is not wiping away any thoughts from the snail's mind. It's rewriting the snail's priorities. The snail must exhibit a sense of worthiness by being exposed, pushing your tentacles, ascending, rather than simply surviving. There is ongoing research on the behavioral mechanism. Studies indicate that Leucochloridium generates neuroactive substances that could potentially impede the snail's perception of light signals. Yet, it is more advanced than simply blocking one neurotransmitter. The worm is not exclusively discouraging the snail from going under. From a neurology perspective, the snail's brain size is not significant, and this suggests that it is actively moving in synchronization with prey. This behavior can be disturbing for these organisms. There is no central power plant to facilitate corruption. The snail's behavior seems to be impacted by the worm as it alters information flow in a distributed neural network that lacks an independent control system. The presence of an animal that is unable to refuse is unsettling. The snail climbs into the sun, knowing that it may or may not find anything good to eat at the peak. The bird is coming. The end is coming. Despite the warning, the snail has been rewritten in some way, causing it to continue climbing. Our attention is primarily directed towards external threats, the things we can see, attacking from the outside. The internal dangers are not something we often consider. Why? Our indefensible parts, the instincts that fail. The snail is unable to comprehend the consequences of its actions until it is too late. At least we can have awareness. We can detect when something is amiss. When Leucochloridium targets a snail, it alters its behavior by changing its internal biology. But what happens when something targets humans instead? Some parasites don't need to affect where you go or how you behave. They only need to change what you want. The answer is no longer hidden in nature. It's hiding somewhere between your desires and what feels like your own choice.